County Radio.
We're here on Coach's Corner. It's the last Coach's Corner of 2024, and it is a season wrap-up, I think we're calling it. I'm here with, to make me look good, a real pretty man, Tank Latham, and Tank from the sidelines and the broadcast this year. He's right now the leading contender for Rookie of the Year here at Beaver County Radio. Of course, and as always, John Parada, the veteran, the Beaver County legend, a two-time Hall of Famer. And, behind the screen, we've got Ryan Garazunas. I think, finally, the hardest working producer on Wednesday night from 7 to 8 in Beaver County. And welcome to him. And we're supposed to be joined by Mr. Robert Mangino. But season wrap-up, fellows, it's an interesting year for Beaver County. Only one team in the finals this year. It is Central Valley. They're going to be in the 3A final at Acrisure Stadium. We'll be covering it. The game starts at 5. It's going to be Central Valley and Avonworth, a rematch from a conference game. Tank, we only saw them play one time. It was last week. We saw them play one time through the year. A really good team, but they had a rough schedule and they had a rough go of it early in the season. A lot of people wrote them off, but they came back in conference, only lost to Avonworth. We're tied for the section title with Avonworth and Beaver, and here they are in the final.
Yeah, I know quite a few of the players and some of the coaches. They said they had like the Avengers schedule at the very beginning of the year, and it kind of gave them the hardened skin, made them ready for playoffs, really.
I know me and you talked early in the year when they were 0-3. There was a lot of people that thought, uh-oh. But, and I know going into the Beaver game, I thought that Central Valley had a really good chance to beat Beaver. I know you kind of thought, Beaver's pretty good. It was a debate back and forth, but Central Valley beat them. It was a close game. That's the kind of game I think that if they played 10 times, they'd each go 5-5. But Central Valley, if they would have lost that game, they'd have been 0-4, I think. But they came on strong. They would have been 1-4 because they did beat McGovey.
That's where that experience comes into play for sure. Like they've been in those games. They know they're never really out of it. It's just got to keep playing until the end of the whistle, basically.
And John, you've known Mark Lyons, their coach, for a long time. Other than 1 year between Mount Pleasant and Central Valley, he would be the longest tenured coach that has worked through 3 schools. When he was a young man, he was coaching at Monaca, and he's done some great things over the years. And now he's got his team back in. We talked to him last week. He had a lot of interesting things to say about his team and how things went this year.
He did, and he admitted that they were kind of adrift there for a while when they were losing. And, even though they were playing good teams, they were still losing, and, it hurt the morale a little bit after a while. I mean, everybody wants to win, and you can say, well, we got beat by a tough team, but it's still a loss. But I'll give him credit. He held things together, and his team never gave up, even when things looked bad for them. And, they remind me very much of, although I think this Central Valley team is a little more talented, they remind me very much of the Beaver Falls team that won the WPIL title in Double-A last year. You remember Beaver Falls lost 4 or 5 games, barely squeaked into the playoffs, and then won the WPIL, won 4 games in a row. And that's what Central Valley reminds me of, like a team, they're just really hot, and they really found themselves, and it just took some time to find their footing. But now that they have, they're awfully hard to beat.
And John, we've talked to these coaches. We talk to them a lot off air and on air, and we find out a lot of things that we don't talk about on air. And, Mark kind of told us that every single team, doesn't matter who it is, there's some inside strife. There's kids with grades problems, kids get in a fight in school, kids have issues at home. And the media, and a lot of people don't know about things. And he said there's a lot of times that, he thinks he's still getting through to the kids. His staff is still getting through to the kids. But there are times that he says to himself, am I still getting through to them? Is it still going to happen? And he said this year it didn't take till mid-season before the kids and him and they all meshed. And people don't realize it's not easy year after year after year to keep up that championship pedigree.
You're right. And, I mean, this is their 5th trip to the championship game in 6 years, which is pretty amazing, other than Aliquippa going, 16 or 17 years in a row, which
17 in a row.
we'll never in my mind, ever be matched again.
I don't think so either.
That streak.
Unless Aliquippa does it again.
But, I thought it was interesting. Mark's been coaching for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I covered him when he played at Monaca, which was nearly 40 years ago. And a lot of times when coaches have coached that long, they kind of lose touch a little bit with their players, I think, as you get older and the age gap grows between, the coach and the players. But the one thing I found about Mark, and I found it very interesting, is like you said, he said you have to keep the message fresh. And this was really the first time in all the years that he's coached that he wondered if maybe his message wasn't fresh anymore.
And I'm sure a lot of coaches wonder that.
Yeah, and I'm sure, especially when you get in Mark's territory in your late 50s, early 60s.
We're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. We're just going to quickly review the WPL playoffs. We probably won't talk about the ones that aren't involved with Beaver County teams much, but 6A was easy. It was Central Catholic easily over North Allegheny. They're 1 versus the 2. There's only 6 teams, Tank, in 6A.
Right.
And, let's just face it. Mount Lebanon and Seneca Valley were 500 teams. Everybody knew it was Central Catholic and NA. I think it was a foregone conclusion that Central Catholic would win that one.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
Pretty easy. John, starting in 5A, we had one team in there, Moon. Moon plays in a really, really tough conference, and there were people who thought Moon didn't deserve, but Moon, playing with teams like Upper St. Clair, Peters Township, Bethel Park, South Fayette, that's a tough conference of the 3 and 5A, but they made the playoffs, and they lost their first playoff game, but they still made it and lost to Penn Hills. So I got to give them credit for just getting in there in that tough conference.
Yeah, absolutely. Play some real powerhouse schools from the South Hills, good traditional powers, and yeah, I mean they had a good season. I think if you would have told them at the beginning of the year, if you make the playoffs, they would have taken that. And sure, you'd like to win once you get there, but I think if you would have just said, hey, well, you're going to at least get to the playoffs, they'd be all right with that.
In 5A, it's Pine Richland, the number 1 seed, against Peters Township, the number 3 seed. The 1, 2, 3, and 5 made it. Upper St. Clair lost to Peters Township, and Bethel Park lost to Pine Richland. Tank. It's the WPL. They do get criticism, but when we go through these brackets, you're going to see mostly 1 through 5, 1 through 6. Those teams, the higher seeded teams, usually go.
Yeah, I think they've done a pretty good job there. So it's been very competitive. We haven't really had too many big blowouts besides a couple of the games we've done, but it's been very competitive without doubt.
In 4A, Thomas Jefferson was the 1 seed, Aliquippa the 4 seed, McKeesport the 3 seed, and Mars was the 7 seed to beat Montour the 2 seed. So it was 1, 7, 3, and 4. And for our listeners, Aliquippa lost a tough one to Thomas Jefferson. It was 38-21. Aliquippa had to come back to make it that close, Tank. But they had so many mistakes. They fumbled a couple of times on snaps for punts. They made numerous mistakes, a lot of penalties. You don't beat a strong team like Thomas Jefferson making that many mistakes.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it when we were on site with some of their Aliquippa games. I feel that Aliquippa's finally hit that wall where they need more kids to play against those bigger teams. So especially later in the season when they need the pull from their reserves, they don't have that pool to pull from.
In 3A, the teams we had involved, let's start off with the Beaver Bobcats. They had a bye in the first round, and, Tank, I'll go to you first, then I'll get John an opinion. We were at the game, Beaver and Avonworth. We were also at the Beaver Avonworth game at the end of the season, and you had talked to Avonworth's head coach, who kind of poo-pooed the end of the season game.
Yeah.
Didn't mean a lot.
Yeah,
and they lost to Central Valley, and then they came out in this second game. Sorry, not Central Valley, Beaver. And it was a completely different game.
Yeah. Right. Round 1, Avonworth versus Beaver. It was definitely Coach John Carr. He was like, well, we're all in the playoffs, so this game really doesn't mean much. But when they came back the second time, man, they came out with a vengeance, and those brothers came out.
Got him right here. Neil.
Yeah, Neil and his other brother.
Yeah, Luca and
Neil. Yep. Those guys, they took over that game.
Yeah, they did. And were you surprised that they came out and just walked through Beaver like they were a pat of butter?
I really feel like they had something to prove, and they were just.
Yeah, Luca and Nika. It was crazy. John, I've never seen it. I don't want to say in shock, but it was 35-0 at the half. And Beaver was a good team. Central Valley, Beaver, and Avonworth took turns beating each other. They all fought they shared the section title. Avonworth was the 5 seed, Beaver the 4, Amani the 1, Central Valley the 2, Elizabeth Forward the 3. But Avonworth had a chip on the shoulder, and I mean, I've seen nothing like it. It was tic-tac-toe through Beaver, and before you knew it, it was 35-0, and everyone was in shock.
Like the first quarter, it really was.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was listening to the game, and I couldn't believe it was that one-sided. But I'll give Duke Joncourt a lot of credit. Mm-hmm. He totally ran a different offense.
Yes.
And I can't remember. Now, basketball, you can do that easier because you only have 5 guys on the floor. But football's a little different to like just change your offense in 1 week. And that really impressed me that they just totally changed into going to the Wildcat. And I could see where Beaver got caught flat-footed because, I mean, surely no coach would have expected to see that happen.
But another thing, and Tank will attest to this, the first Beaver Avonworth game, Beaver's offensive line and defensive line just owned Avonworth. And this time around, it was Avonworth who just pushed Beaver around. It was almost like watching a varsity versus a JV.
Yeah.
And it was something that we just were shocked to see.
I mean, those, like I said, that first game, the line play for the offense and defense of Beaver, like they just completely dominated. And then came round 2. It was like once they got hit in the face there a little bit, they kind of went back in their shell, and Avonworth just kept piling it on, and there was just no stopping it.
So finally, the number 1 seed was Imani, the number 2 seed was Central Valley, number 3 was Elizabeth, and the number 5 was Avonworth. So again, really close by the WPL. Central Valley beats EF last week 31-15, and Avonworth, slight upset over Imani, who damaged everybody all year, held them to 7 points. So we'll talk a little bit more about Central Valley Avonworth a little bit later in the show. We're going to also take a break. We'll come back, talk 2A and 1A, let you know the Pizza Joe's, all of us, all 4 of us, including Ryan. Ryan just loves the smell of Pizza Joe's. Haven't gotten the pickle pizza yet. Ryan, what are you thinking? You think maybe come basketball season we try the pickle pizza or no?
Yeah, we'll give it a try. I'm not huge on pickles.
Because if we don't eat it, you're taking it home to your kids.
I'll certainly try it.
Pizza Joe's, talked about them, and they carry in, dine out. They got video games in there for the kids. They got salads, dipping sticks, rollers, hot subs, wedgies, and more. We'll be back after these messages right here on Beaver County Radio.
This is Mitch Carver from Carver Construction. Playing a great football game takes teamwork, great leaders, and great individuals. As a former high school football coach myself, I know what it takes to win. I apply these same qualities to Carver Construction in New Brighton. Satisfying customers isn't anything new at Carver. We've been doing it since 1982 for both residential and commercial renovations. I'm behind every job we do, so I can guarantee you that every time you deal with us, you win. Call us or visit us at our website at carverconstructionpa.com.
Falling in love is one thing. Having anxiety about falling is a whole different subject. If you or a family member are concerned about falling, and yes, either up or down the stairs, or maybe even out of bed, St. Barnabas has a special message and some ideas just for you. Years of experience in working with people who are prone to falls has given St. Barnabas special expertise in this area. Call them at 724-443-0700 and learn about ways that you can begin to feel more confident and safe, including suggestions that you can implement right now into your daily routine. Call St. Barnabas at 724-443-0700. For many years now, St. Barnabas has been helping people fall in love, that is, with their new, better life, a longer life, a risk-free life. Call St. Barnabas now at 724-443-0700 or visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com and learn more about living longer and better.
I'm Daniel Frank, and I'm a Beaver Bobcat. That's because we are training for a long and a very profitable postseason once high school is over at the Beaver County and Technology Center.
If you're an employer, what do you look for in a prospective new hire? A proven track record is usually the #1 trait. For 46 years now, the Beaver County Career and Technology Center has been creating the workforce that has shaped Western Pennsylvania industry and and service sector enterprises. It's the program with proven experience that employers know they can count on when they need to fill their workforce. Enroll your child or grandchild at the known quantity among educators and business leaders alike for 4 decades, the Beaver County Career and Technology Center. Signing up through your local public school is easy and can give your student the ability, in many cases, to make more money in certain fields than college graduates. Free career training at Beaver County Career and Technology Center is the perfect choice. Visit bcctc.org.
This is Andy Toole, men's basketball coach at Robert Morris University, here to talk about my friends at Falcone Moon Township Ford. I know what it takes to win a basketball game. It begins with practice and a team of players who want to win. The same is true of the team at Moon Township Ford. Professionals who will win you over. They'll find the best rate and terms on a car loan to help you get the best deal. Make a fast break and avoid the roadblocks that stop you from finding the car you want. Go where I go. Moon Township Ford.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
Looking for a fall activity for your children? Pass and score your way into the Beaver County YMCA's Youth Soccer League. The league will teach the basic fundamentals of soccer. There will be 1 practice a week teaching drills and skills. This soccer league is for kids ages 5 through 12 and runs from September 10th to October 19th. Registration is already open. To register, go to beavercountyymca.org.
You know, I've heard people refer to older veteran athletes as being all washed up. Well, quite frankly, that's a rather nice compliment if you ask me. This is the Aquaman of Beaver County, Jim Riggio from the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. When you hear something like that, you have to consider the source of the water, that is. After all, getting washed up with Beaver Falls Municipal Authority water can't be a bad thing. That's because for over 80 years, we've made it possible for everyone to feel washed up, even if they are not star athletes. Click bfwater.net.
Looking for home services? Call Patriot Home Care in Beaver Falls. Their staff provides company, conversation, and companionship to all patients, ensuring medications are taken on time, participating in fun community activities, personal care, meal prep, and light household work are all services provided by Patriot Home Care, all thanks to the hardworking and selfless team members. Call Patriot Home Care at 724-506-8911 or stop in Patriot Home Care, 1225 7th Avenue, Beaver Falls. Make your dream of a college degree a reality at Community College of Beaver County. CCBC offers 10 pathways to success, including health sciences, criminal justice, industrial technology, business, and more. Start at CCBC and finish your career or get transfer ready, all at a realistic cost. Enroll today, ccbc.edu.
If you like stuffing, this is your favorite time of the year. This is Cindy Hiladio from Friendly Federal Credit Union. I like stuffing too, especially when it comes to stuffing your wallet with cash. Forget the fancy Thanksgiving recipes. I suggest a visit to Friendly Federal Credit Union. Apply for a holiday loan today to stuff your pocketbook before holiday shopping. Based on credit approval, Friendly Federal Credit Union, member NCUA, equal housing lender.
When you talk about community involvement and safety, the name Fry stands at the forefront in Beaver County. Fry Transportation's mission is to continue to raise the bar as the gold standard in their industry by providing the safest, most reliable, and cost-efficient transportation service in Beaver County through their strong relationships with their communities, best-in-their-class drivers, equipment, and technology. There's nothing more important than the safety of their students, employees, and community members. Fry Transportation, where the quality of their organization is characterized by the makeup of the individual behind the wheel.
How would you like to make the holidays a little better? This is Andy Dangle from Freedom United Federal Credit Union with a Christmas wish for you. Make the holiday the one you've always dreamed of with a visit to Freedom United Federal Credit Union. While you're there, register to win a Christmas breakfast tray from Cafe Colache in Beaver. That's right, get the money you need, plus a delicious holiday breakfast for you and your family just by doing business with Freedom United Federal Credit Union. The interest really is in you at Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Member NCUA, equal housing lender.
If your group or organization wants to look like a winner, upgrade your public message, signs, banners, vehicle wraps, and lettering, and other branding platforms with a makeover from Signs Made Fast. Wherever there are people, you need a sign, and it needs to look good. An old, faded, outdated logo or weathered sign on the front of your business damages your good reputation. Turn it around today. Create the perception of a winner. Visit signsmadefast.us or call 724-774-8267.
Thank you for tuning in to the Coach's Corner right here on Beaver County Radio. Tonight's show is being brought to you by Carver Construction, the St. Barnabas Health System, Beaver County Career and Technology Center, Falcone's Moon Township Board, the YMCA, Beaver Falls Municipal Authority, Patriot Home Care, Keystone Wellness Program, Fried Transportation Group, Freedom United Federal Credit Union, the Community College of Beaver County, Friendly Federal Credit Union, Fat Boy Cigars, Geneva College, and Beaver County Radio.
And we're back on Coach's Corner. John Parada, Tank Latham, Mike Azalian, and behind the screen, Ryan Garazunas. He's got the award. I wish we could turn the cameras around and see Ryan's award for last year's Rookie of the Year. It's right there on the wall. It's the only award we have in the office.
Why couldn't we pick that camera up and take
could
it over there and show it?
But if you break
Mike,
it.
Mike touched it last time.
I touched it last, almost broke it. Let's talk Double A.
St. Barnabas didn't hear that.
They didn't. We had a playoff game, Tank, early first round. It was Arleta Sacred Heart, a team that is right on the edge of our coverage area, and Riverside. We did that one, and Riverside came away 29-8 victors, and that was a really, really good Riverside defense, a good run game, a good pass game, and it was a better Riverside team at the end of the year than we saw in the middle of the year.
Yeah. I mean, Riverside, they were definitely my shock of the year with how well they've advanced, and kudos to the coach for getting that program up and running, and the community is definitely all in supportive of that as well.
John, Western Beaver, they were the number 5 seed, and they beat Carleton early, 41-6, but then they had to face the number 4 seed in Steel Valley, and a team that is very quick with the Barksdale brothers and a lot of skill. And Western Beaver, despite having some skill, just not enough, lost a tough one in the 4-5 game in the quarterfinals, 13, I'm sorry. But a pretty good year for Western Beaver to be the 5 seed in the playoffs and have a shot to get to the semifinals. I mean, beginning of the year, you're going to sign up for that.
Yeah, I mean, especially since they had an unsettled off season. I mean, they thought they were going to lose their quarterback, Javen Peel, to Central Catholic. He went through some summer workouts with Central Catholic, came back to Western Beaver. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was ever his idea to leave, but so be it. And, I think they had a good year. They lost their top 3 receivers to graduation from last year, so we had new receivers to work with. And the only thing Western would have to do now, it's been about 20 years since they've gotten past that second round. It seems like they win their first round, but they just get tripped up in the second round. They can't break through and get to the semifinals, and they haven't been to the championship game since 1994, so you're going on 30 years since they've been in a title game.
Well, they'll have Peel back and some others, and there'll be a team to be watched for next year. The number 1 seed is Seton LaSalle. They're still in. The number 2 is South Park. So it's 1 versus 2 in the final, and that'll be at 2 o'clock on Saturday. The number 3 team was Elwood City, and I'll get to Tank with on this. And number 4 was Steel Valley. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 made it in Double A. We got to see Elwood City. They had a bye in the first round. Easily beats, not easily, I shouldn't say that. South Allegheny, they won 13-12 in a tough game, in a game that they held South Allegheny, I believe, Tank, it was 50 or 60 yards on the ground. But then they ran up against South Park. They lost 28-7, and, it went okay for a while early on, but boy, South Park, with their defense, was just unbelievable. They had one of the best defensive players we've ever seen, and as good as Elwood City was, they got to the semifinals. It was a great story, but just too tough it was that South Park team.
That defensive line and offensive line, they were juggernauts, and there's a reason why a lot of those boys are getting
Division I
D1 calls for sure. And I mean, they definitely had the backup for whenever somebody were to go out for a couple plays. They had kids that were ready to step up and next man up and come in there.
And I would not seen anybody like that all year long. In South Park, with a senior-dominated team, when you've got kids that are 6'3", 280 pounds, lightning quick on the line. I cannot remember the young man's name, but he was pushing 2 linemen right into the QB, and the pocket was collapsing, and he was taking too much. the kid from South Park.
Yeah, I think his name was Trey.
Right, and and he was just dominant with 6 sacks. We saw nothing like it. I mean, and if it's not for the Elwood quarterback getting rid of the ball a half a dozen other times, the kid probably could have had 8 to 10 sacks. It was that dominant.
Yeah, I mean, it was a coaching nightmare. I've been on that side of the ball against some of those teams like that, and it's hard to right the ship once that started happening.
So it's Seton LaSalle, a team that did not win a game 2 years ago, not last year. They've turned it around to be undefeated this year. They play South Park. Should be one of the interesting matchups on Saturday. In 1A, let's see what we got here in 1A. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 13 made it to the semifinals. Local teams, Cornell beat Leechburg early on, 34-20. Cornell lost to Fort Cherry 27-20, and John, Cornell is a team that kind of went under the radar, and Ed Dawson does a great job there. They almost upset the number 1 seed in the quarterfinals.
They did, and Fort Cherry's very, very good. The defending champions have a quarterback that's going to Penn State. Yeah, and he does a really good job at Cornell. And, he walked into a tough circumstance. They shut the program down for a couple of years and co-opted with Quaker Valley for a while.
And now they're co-opted with somebody else.
Now they're co-opting, but he kind of resurrected that program at Cornell. And their numbers they're low. It's a very small school district. And he puts competitive teams on the field every year, or more than competitive, playoff caliber teams.
And Beaver County teams, 2 other teams we had Rochester was number 15 seed. They had a rough year. They lost to Clairton in the first round. It was 56-0. That was a tough game for Rochester. And then Southside played Jefferson Morgan. They went on the road and won a game 39-30, but lost a heartbreaker tank to Bishop Canevin 17-13. But Southside, a team that made the final last year, lost some talent, got back to the quarterfinals, but couldn't get past a good Bishop Canevin team.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think we got to see Southside in action. We were there for the Lightning game against Beaver Falls. But so they seem like a good program that's turned things around, and they got some bright futures ahead of them for sure.
So, John, it's number 1, the Fort Cherry Rangers with Matt Sieg, the young man. Offers from everybody. He's going to go to Penn State. They won 49-14 over Jeanette. And Clairton, the team that I believe has only given up 56 points all year, and they have scored 56 and 54 in their 2 playoff games. It's 2 high-powered offenses with 1 team, a high-powered defense. It's 1 versus 2, and it's going to be an interesting matchup, and that's 11 o'clock on Saturday.
Yeah, it should be a really interesting matchup. Like we said, Fort Cherry defending champs, one of the top players in the state at quarterback, and I got to give Fort Cherry a little edge because of the quarterback. When you have, especially in A-ball, when you have a player that great, that gives you a big advantage. And the kid is really, really good until he gets to Penn State. We'll see what James Franklin screws him up. But anyway,
that's another thing. It's another show.
But, right now the kid's really, really good, and it's just hard when you're in Class A. When you have that dominant player, you can win a lot of games. You can win championships.
Another thing too, and this has hurt Aliquippa some. When you get to Acrisure, most of the year you're playing on turf fields most of the year, and then that helps the quick teams. You get down to Acrisure, it's raining, it's going to be a little sloppy.
Exactly.
That hurts the speed teams, and that's the Clairton teams, the speed team. So that's another advantage for Cherry. Quickly, we'll go to break here in a second, but through 3 rounds of the playoffs, we had Beaver County teams, let's see, 12 teams in the playoffs, 1 team alive, an 8-11 record. It has not been a great year for Beaver County teams. We've had 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 teams lose their first game, and another 6 teams lose their second game, so only Central Valley left. Just one of those odd years where Beaver County teams, we only have 1 down for the championships. Remind everybody about Pizza Joe's once again. Thanks to them for bringing us pizza all year long on this show. We'll pick up with them back at the beginning of the year with the Coach's Corner for basketball. We're going to take another break. We'll come back. We'll go through some other Beaver County teams and their seasons. We'll talk about disappointments and surprises, and we'll go through the Central Valley Avonworth Championship preview, all here on Beaver County Radio.
Want the ultimate cigar experience? Fat Boy Cigars Premium Tobacco Shop and Smoking Lounge is located off of 376 in Center Township. Fat Boy Cigars offers all your cigar needs with an assortment of some of the finest cigars, including small batch boutique cigars and over 21 aromatic pipe tobacco blends and accessories. Stop and see their luxurious lounge accommodations. Book them for your next event. Visit their social media page for a list of event dates and times. Welcome to the Fat Boys world, Beaver County.
At Geneva College, your academic experience will prepare you with exceptional expertise in your chosen field. But what you'll learn is so much more than just that. Integrating faith and learning, you'll grow to see God's purpose and calling in your life's work. You'll be challenged to imagine how the world around you could be different and what your part might be in making that difference. You were made to live courageously. Visit geneva.edu today.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Bob. We're retired, and we live at St. Barnabas in the Village.
We used to have a house.
Lived in it for 40 years.
Raised our kids.
But it became too much. The upkeep, the stairs.
Moving seemed like such a hassle. We didn't even know where to start, so we didn't.
Until we met Cindy at St. Barnabas.
She talked us through our options.
Yeah, and she helped us with our move and all the arrangements.
There was so much stuff. Who knew we had 3 fondue pots?
But she made it easy.
So easy.
Now we enjoy ourselves.
Golf, the pool, new friends, shuttles to where we want to go.
The pub and the food.
So good.
There wasn't a long-term commitment or any large fees.
And they have a healthcare system on campus with doctors if we need it. The kids really like that.
The kids like to come and eat with us.
There's an easier, worry-free way to retire at the Village at St. Barnabas. Come visit us for a free and informative counseling session and personal tour.
I can't believe you waited so long.
I can't believe you waited so long.
Visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-443-0700.
This is Mitch Carver from Carver Construction. Playing a great football game takes teamwork, great leaders, and great individuals. As a former high school football coach myself, I know what it takes to win. I apply these same qualities to Carver Construction in New Brighton. Satisfying customers isn't anything new at Carver. We've been doing it since 1982 for both residential and commercial renovations. I'm behind every job we do, so I can guarantee you that every time you deal with us, you win. Call us or visit us at our website at carverconstructionpa.com.
This is Andy Toole, men's basketball coach at Robert Morris University, here to talk about my friends at Falcone Moon Township Ford. I know what it takes to win a basketball game. It begins with practice and a team of players who want to win. The same is true of the team at Moon Township Ford. Professionals who will win you over. They'll find the best rate and terms on a car loan to help you get the best deal. Make a fast break and avoid the roadblocks that stop you from finding the car you want. Go where I go. Moon Township Ford.
Falcone's Moon Township Ford, where friends send friends.
Looking for a fall activity for your children? Pass and score your way into the Beaver County YMCA's Youth Soccer League. The league will teach the basic fundamentals of soccer. There will be one practice a week teaching drills and skills. This soccer league is for kids ages 5 through 12 and runs from September 10th to October 19th. Registration is already open. To register, go to beavercountyymca.org.
You know, I've heard people refer to older veteran athletes as being all washed up. Well, quite frankly, that's a rather nice compliment if you ask me. This is the Aquaman of Beaver County, Jim Riggio from the Beaver Falls Municipal Authority. When you hear something like that, you have to consider the source of the water, that is. After all, getting washed up with Beaver Falls Municipal Authority water can't be a bad thing. That's because for over 80 years, we've made it possible for everyone to feel washed up, even if they are not star athletes. Click bfwater.net.
Looking for home services? Call Patriot Home Care in Beaver Falls. Their staff provides company, conversation, and companionship to all patients, ensuring medications are taken on time, participating in fun community activities, personal care, meal prep, and light household work are all services provided by Patriot Home Care, all thanks to the hardworking and selfless team members. Call Patriot Home Care at 724-506-8911 or stop in Patriot Home Care, 1225 7th Avenue, Beaver Falls.
If your group or organization wants to look like a winner, upgrade your public message, signs, banners, vehicle wraps, and lettering, and other branding platforms with a makeover from Signs Made Fast. Wherever there are people, you need a sign, and it needs to look good. An old, faded, outdated logo or weathered sign on the front of your business damages your good reputation. Turn it around today. Create the perception of a winner. Visit signsmadefast.us or call 724 774-8267.
When you talk about community involvement and safety, the name Fry stands at the forefront in Beaver County. Fry Transportation's mission is to continue to raise the bar as the gold standard in their industry by providing the safest, most reliable, and cost-efficient transportation service in Beaver County through their strong relationships with their communities, best-in-their-class drivers, equipment, and technology. There's nothing more important than the safety of their students, employees, and community members. Fry Transportation, where the quality of their organization is characterized by the makeup of the individual behind the wheel.
Make your dream of a college degree a reality at Community College of Beaver County. CCBC offers 10 pathways to success, including health sciences, criminal justice, industrial technology, business, and more. Start at CCBC and finish your career or get transfer ready, all at a realistic cost. Enroll today, ccbc.edu. Thank you for tuning in to the Coach's Corner right here on Beaver County Radio. Tonight's show is being brought to you by Carver Construction, the St. Barnabas Health System, Beaver County Career and Technology Center, Falcone's Moon Township Board, the YMCA, Beaver Falls Municipal Authority, Patriot Home Care, Keystone Wellness Program, Fry Transportation Group, Freedom United Federal Credit Union, the Community College of Beaver County, Friendly Federal Credit Union, Fat Boy Cigars, Geneva College, and Beaver County Radio.
We're back on Coach's Corner. John Parada, Tank Latham, Mike Azado. We're supposed to have Robert Mangino, but Robert had some things to do and couldn't quite make it. It is what it is. He's a star, and
he's preparing. He's preparing for Saturday.
He's preparing for Saturday.
I think he should have had a written excuse, though, to
excuse
blow the
nice.
three of us off.
We're gonna have a hologram.
We want to say hello.
Let's have a Tom Brady hologram.
We could do a hologram.
Yeah.
But we want to say hello to some listeners who have been loyal most of the year. Some of the guys at the Mattress Warehouse, Numbskulls, like Chuck and Scott, and guys that I've known for years. Thank you for listening. They're a prospective advertiser, too, by the way.
There you
go. They will be able to hear one of the bosses for them on with Frank Sparks this Friday. But let's talk a little bit more about Beaver County and some of the teams. We already talked briefly about Moon. We didn't see them this year, but let's go to 4A, Tank. Aliquippa, Ambridge, Blackhawk, West Allegheny, all in Section 1 of 4A. You know, Aliquippa guys, pretty much what we expected all year. They lost to Penn Hills. They lost some linemen. They lost their quarterback. They lost a couple receivers. But they still have a lot of talent, and as expected, did really well. We saw them in probably the game of the year against Montour.
That was
a great game.
That's a great game that's going to go down in history for like most competitive games I've ever seen. I feel like a little bit of the noise got to some of those kids in that program with the lawsuits that was going on with the new coach, some of their key players getting hurt in certain times.
Yes.
They're a great team. There's some great characters on that team that has some great character built into them as well. It's just it wasn't their year this year.
Yeah, but Sean Patrick, the new coach, who's been an assistant for years, they lost to Penn Hills, a team that made the semifinals, and they lost to Montour, a good team, and then they lost to Thomas Jefferson. So, John, it's not like they lost to bad teams. They lost to some really good teams, and when you're losing your all-time best quarterback, and when your best running back had missed some of those games and was injured part of the Montour game and injured for the Penn Hills game, you know what? Those things happen.
Well, like Tank said, I think, there was so much uncertainty coming into the season. You had the whole lawsuit with the PIAA and the PIAA trying to bump them all the way up to 5A from 4A. And and it's not a knock on Vashon Patrick, because Vashon's a good coach.
Right.
But the timing of when Mike Warfield decided to take a sabbatical, or however this is playing out. And this is a guy that has a 900-plus winning percentage as a coach. And as good as Vashon is, and I know Vashon's been Mike Warfield's right-hand man, when you make a change that close to the season, you can't, it's not going to be totally seamless, and I'm sure that it played a part.
Yeah.
And the other thing is the expectations are so unbelievably high for Aliquippa. I mean, you're not going to win every game every single year, and and they lost them. And it's not like they got blown out like 52 to nothing in these games.
They could have beat Thomas Jefferson if not for 4 big mistakes. So that happens. Other teams in that section, we got to see Ambridge and Blackhawk in a game. West Allegheny also Tank. Ambridge and Blackhawk were teams that we thought had an outside chance at that the playoff spots. But Ambridge disappointed and lost some big games to Blackhawk and to Newcastle, West Allegheny, Montour, and they just weren't competitive with the teams in the section they could have been. And I was a little surprised because they had a lot of seniors, but they just didn't have the skill players that they needed.
Yeah, Ambridge had like the right recipe, the right formula for, with great running and a good defense. It's just they fell up a little bit short every time they kind of came into those little battles. I mean, they're just right there at that cusp. If they keep working hard at it, I'm sure they're going to break through one of these days.
And John, Blackhawk was a team that a lot of people didn't think would have a chance. They made it to the last week of the season before they were eliminated. They were right there. They win a couple of games here or there, and they could have been knocking on the playoff door as well.
They couldn't, there's been some, turnover there. They were on their third coach in 3 years. And when you think of Blackhawk, you think of a pillar of stability. All those years, Joe Hamilton coached forever at Blackhawk. And even Zach Hayward had a pretty long run. Even as a young coach, he was there for quite a while. And I think, it's taken them a few years to find their footing again, but they seem to be back on the upswing. And, hopefully, I think what they tried to do this year, Mike, was build a culture at Blackhawk. I think that's what they tried to do.
Exactly.
And the people I talk to, some of the kids in my neighborhood, I live in Patterson Township, say that the culture is a lot better this year
Jake
at Blackhawk.
Wickline is starting out this year.
The culture, yes.
And the other team, West Allegheny, didn't cover them this year. They did compete against Aliquippa, beat Montour at the end of the year, made the playoffs, but lost in the playoffs. A pretty tough team. Let's go to 3A. The main team, it's Beaver, it's Central Valley, it's Hopewell, it's Quaker Valley. Quaker Valley just can't get their footing. I believe won one game. I think they beat Valley. Hopewell made it to the last week of the season before they were eliminated when they lost to North Catholic. If they would have beat North Catholic, they'd have been in. No one thought that could happen, and they did. New quarterback in James Armstrong. And then Central Valley and Beaver, like we talked before, tied for the section title. That's two good teams, one average team on the way up, and the Quaker Valley team that, again, just can't get their footing.
Yeah, it's interesting, Quaker Valley, and I know this is your alma mater here,
right.
but
we win in soccer, tennis.
I remember they won the MAC, and I believe it was 1983, and Sam LaFossa was the coach, and I was a young guy working at the Beaver County Times, and I'll never forget he said this, and he said it on the record, then he got mad when I wrote it. He said, the people here at Quaker Valley better enjoy this because they'll never win another conference title again. And except for that one state championship year that came out of nowhere.
Well, that was the year that all the kids who grew up together played football and not soccer, and they won it. And Tank, and that's the kind of situation when kids grow up, and that's what the Beaver kids, and that's what the Central Valley kids, and now the Hopewell kids. We saw Hopewell, and I wanted to get to you. We were so impressed with James Armstrong, the freshman quarterback. The kids, a lineman with quickness. They just didn't have depth. And we really believe, after we had their head coach in here, Matt Modis, and we just feel that they're on the up and coming. They seem to get it. He's just starting to groom the kids. And if he can get kids to stay with that program, they should be a team that is on the rise coming up.
But the biggest surprise, or the brightest star for Hopewell, without a doubt, was that kicker they had. I mean, he almost kicked a 60-yard field goal. I mean,
I can't remember his name. Is
he a senior this year?
I'm not sure.
But he's somebody we'll be watching on Saturdays and Sundays for sure. He's kicking 60-yard field goals in high school.
There's a lot of talented kids in Beaver County that go on to play in places like Geneva and Slippery Rock and Division II and Division III. But we do get some kids that will go on and get to some Division I teams. Kickers seem to be in the know now. We're starting to get 3 or 4 kickers in Beaver County who can kick those 40+. Yeah. So we're getting some kids that are going to be moving on from there. Speaking of moving on, we're going to move on real quick to one more commercial, and we'll be back, talk 2A and 1A, and wrap up the final 15 to 20 minutes here on Beaver County Radio.
How would you like to make the holidays a little better? This is Andy Dangle from Freedom United Federal Credit Union with a Christmas wish for you. Make the holiday the one you've always dreamed of with a visit to Freedom United Federal Credit Union. While you're there, register to win a Christmas breakfast tray from Cafe Colache in Beaver. That's right, get the money you need, plus a delicious holiday breakfast for you and your family just by doing business with Freedom United Federal Credit Union. The interest really is in you at Freedom United Federal Credit Union. Member NCUA, Equal Housing Lender.
Want the ultimate cigar experience? Fat Boy Cigars Premium Tobacco Shop and Smoking Lounge is located off of 376 in Center Township. Fat Boys Cigars offers all your cigar needs with an assortment of some of the finest cigars, including small batch boutique cigars and over 21 aromatic pipe tobacco blends and accessories. Stop and see their luxurious lounge accommodations. Book them for your next event. Visit their social media page for a list of event dates and times. Welcome to the Fat Boys world, Beaver County.
At Geneva College, your academic experience will prepare you with exceptional expertise in your chosen field. But what you'll learn is so much more than just that. Integrating faith and learning, you'll grow to see God's purpose and calling in your life's work. You'll be challenged to imagine how the world around you could be different and what your part might be in making that difference. You were made to live courageously. Visit geneva.edu today.
Thank you for tuning in to the Coach's Corner right here on Beaver County Radio. Tonight's show is being brought to you by Carver Construction, the St. Barnabas Health System, Beaver County Career and Technology Center, Falcone's Moon Township Board, the YMCA, Beaver Falls Municipal Authority, Patriot Home Care, Keystone Wellness Program, Fried Transportation Group, Freedom United Federal Credit Union, the Community College of Beaver County, Friendly Federal Credit Union, Fat Boy Cigars, Geneva College, and Beaver County Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, that was one of the voices of Beaver County Radio, Eddie Crow, formerly of WDVE, and now he's a big staple here in Beaver County.
Yeah.
Everybody knows him. Voice of Beaver County, one of them. Let's talk about more Beaver County stuff. Let's go Class 2A. In Section 1, we have Our Lady of Sacred Heart. Team we only saw once, Tank, and they had a really, really, really good athlete at quarterback, but Riverside handled them so easily in playoffs. But they're a team that's a rebuilding team right now.
Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately wasn't there for that game, but like I said, it seems like they're up-and-coming type of thing.
Section 2 sees all of the Beaver County teams, Beaver Falls, Freedom, New Brighton, Riverside, Western Beaver, and Elwood City. Now, John, going into the season, we talked a lot about this section. We knew Beaver Falls would struggle because they lost 20 seniors, and they struggled. We knew that Elwood City would be good. We didn't know how good. We kind of figured Freedom might struggle. 3 for 3 there. New Brighton and Riverside, we didn't know what to expect. We got surprised by both of them. And Western Beaver, we thought would be pretty good. So we were right on with 4 teams. Just didn't know what to expect from New Brighton and Riverside, and they both did pretty well this year.
I thought New Brighton, and I know we talked this the very first week of the season, I thought John McCouga was going to do well there. I mean, and they did. I mean, after
and other
going
coaches we had here
10,
told us he
they
would.
all spoke very highly of him in that conference. And, I mean, after going 0-10 2 years in a row, it's progress. Yeah, I know they didn't make the playoffs, but it certainly made progress. Riverside, to me, is the surprise. They're much like Blackhawk. Yes. They had third coach in 3 years. They had a awful season last year. I mean, just a really bad season. A lot of upheaval in the program. And they went from that to being very, very competitive and competitive enough to get into the playoffs and win a game in the playoffs. So, to me, they are the Beaver County. They would be the surprise team, and that would be, to me, the coach of the year for the fact that he turned it around that fast.
And we had him on. It was Rod Magnifico. I called him Magnesio, but I was wrong because the WPL coaches director was wrong. But, Tank, you got to talk to Coach Magnifico, and I know they were a surprise team for you as well. And we saw them against Western Beaver in a tough game for them. Western won that one.
Yeah, if it wasn't for as many turnovers that Riverside did,
they could have beat them.
They were right in that game with that great defense that he pulled out. He put a whole new defense in just for that game, and And it drove young Mr. Peel pretty crazy playing small ball.
And the one thing, you being a New Brighton guy, you have a business in New Brighton, you've got roots in New Brighton. It's important to you to see the New Brighton sports teams come back to life. And a lot of people, they've been struggling in softball and girls basketball, boys basketball, football. It's been the last 10 years have not been real good.
It all stems with that first season, which the biggest sport obviously is football.
And this year,
Coach Maguga and his great staff he's got built up around him, they came up with those kids. A lot of those coaches have kids that are in that program, and there's definitely a sense of pride built back into New Brighton, and we thank you, Coach Maguga, for that.
And
for sure.
Not only that, but a new AD, you get new life in the program. But when they won their first game after losing 22 straight on the road, I believe it was against Union. Tell us about what happened that night, Friday night, probably 10 o'clock, 10:30, about when they came home.
That was whenever they basically had the fire department,
the community, fans.
They were all there. It was like 10 o'clock at night. They were getting escorted all through town. That was actually, I believe, for the jug game that you're speaking of.
But they did it twice.
Yeah, they did it a couple times.
But early in the year when they won that first game, they did it. And then they came on the show and told us about it. And then after they won the jug game, we had them on again. Right. And they were a fun group, good kids. And John, go ahead.
And you could tell how much the kids appreciated what the people in the community did after they broke that losing streak to show up at Oak Hill Field late at night to greet them. I mean, that's cool.
They have a lot of good young athletes that are coming up.
Yep.
And those seniors that led the way and paved that road for them, showed them the hard work, eventually pays off. And it's starting that seed that's going to start to grow once again.
And before we move to Singaway and continue, Beaver Falls, we knew they'd struggle. I wouldn't say epic. It's the reverse of epic. What kind of a season? We've never seen a team in Beaver Falls do what they did. They were winless. They were scoreless in many games. They weren't competitive in many games. When we talked to their head coach, who's a brand new coach as well, well, he's been coaching for a lot of years, but Jim Mooney came on the show with us, and he was kind of gnarly. Expected to win a few more games than he thought he was going to win a couple of times. Didn't like being called young, and it was a good interview, but you could tell it bothered him that he was losing right now.
Yeah, he did. And I mean, you talk about a town with tradition in sports and football, and I mean, you're not used to seeing a 0 for Beaver Falls' record in football. And we knew, like you said, you knew it was coming this year. They lost so many players from that team that there was no way that they could reload that fast after losing basically their entire starting side on both sides of the ball. But it still was a little jarring to look at the standings and see a 0 there next to their...
And the thing that jarred me most, Tank, and I think it did with you too, when we did the jug game, New Brighton, Beaver Falls, you could just see they didn't have the size. They didn't have, when you only have five upperclassmen between seniors and juniors, it's like boys playing against men. People don't realize 14, 15-year-olds against 17, 18-year-olds is a big thing after kids have been lifting weights for 4 years versus 3 years. And you feel bad for Beaver Falls, but then again, Beaver Falls has been beating up on teams for years too. Yeah. So it's one of those years. I'm sure that they've got some people coming up too. So they're going to remember this in the back of their head.
They're super excited for the group that's coming up. They've been playing, like we've been stating, the groups to have a group of kids that play from basically second grade, first grade, all the way up through 10th to 12th grade. They have that rapport with each other. They just know what's going on. And those young kids that are coming up, they're beating up on some kids in that Beaver County Youth Football League there, and they're doing pretty well. I focus a lot on pregame when I look at the offensive line and defensive line, and Beaver Falls they had like maybe one offensive lineman that was quality. Where now those kids are starting to get their licks in it, and they're coming up throughout the thing.
John, finally, Western Beaver, and, Tank, you saw him too. Javen Peel has 2 more years to go. We hope he stays at Western Beaver. They have some kids coming up too. We feel next year, we don't know. Next year could be Elwood City's losing a lot of players. Freedom should have a lot of people coming back. New Brighton, Riverside, Western Beaver. It's going to be another tough section, but Western had a really good year this year, right there with Elwood City finishing second.
They really did. And, hopefully Javen Peel stays at Western Beaver. From everything we've been able to gather, it wasn't his decision to want to leave Western. And, I mean, he's a 15-year-old kid, so he only has so much say in what he can do. And I hope it works out for him. I hope it works out for Western Beaver. And, I'm not going to lie, it's my alma mater, and I have a soft spot for him. I'd like to see him win.
Still haven't put a statue of you up there.
I've been waiting. Been waiting for years.
Everybody listening for Western Beaver start.
Tank has a statue at New Brighton.
Oh, he's got
That's
statues
just because
all
I
over.
drank a whole gallon of river water in front of everybody.
He did.
River water.
Look at Tank's, not only is Tank a real estate agent and a football broadcaster, he is also a country Western idol.
Look at him. Yeah.
So
I wanted to say about Elwood real quick. I don't mean to interrupt.
That's okay.
But what a good job Dan Bradley's done there.
Oh, he's been tremendous.
Took one of a really downtrodden program and turned it. They had an undefeated regular season, got all the way to the semifinals. Historic season. They got to that far for the first time in almost 40 years.
Talk of the county.
And they had a really
Beaver
good
County
team.
Early into Lawrence County.
And he's just, he's such a good guy. I mean, we sit here that night after the show and talk to him for another hour just off air.
Another thing, too, is people don't realize how bad that program was.
Yeah.
Them and Riverside and New Brighton, we had 3 teams that we cover that were just non-competitive for a 10-year stretch.
Yeah.
And now all 3 are back. And that's one thing. We'll talk about that a little bit more quickly in 1A. Cornell, we mentioned during Section 3. We talked about Ed Dawson a little bit before. They finished 4th behind Bishop Canavan, Fort Cherry, and Monessen. Actually, they finished 3rd. They beat Monessen. But Section 4 is where we have Rochester and Southside. And Rochester is a team for years and years. We had Gene Matzock, not Dan, on earlier in the year, and he, basically told us that he kept the culture up. They've always made the playoffs. They've struggled a little bit lately, but it's numbers for Gino. It's numbers for their program. And when they lose in the last 3 years, every year, 2 to 5 key players, you're losing both sides of the football, and they've struggled. And, they've been finished in 4th, made the playoffs. And then on the other side is Southside, who made the finals last year and just couldn't quite get back because they lost a little too much talent.
It's tough for Rochester. Like you said, the numbers. It's a very small school district to the point where I wonder at some point if the state isn't going to ask them to merge with another school district.
There are rumors about that.
There's been rumors.
There has been for a long time.
There's Rochester, as they call it.
Yep.
There's been rumors about New Brighton in Rochester. There's also rumors about Freedom in Rochester.
Yep.
And that might be forced. You guys bring up good points. Tank, anything you want to say about Rochester and or Southside?
I mean, they're both great schools that have very strong traditions. I really feel that they're going to be back with force here within the next 2 years. They just got to keep on trusting their system and their program. And so they'll be back for sure. And like I said, they both made the playoffs this year. So,
guys, let's talk disappointments and surprises. To me, my surprises, we talked Riverside a little bit, Hopewell and New Brighton. I thought they'd both be better, but I didn't think both teams would go to the final week of the season and be eligible, almost ready for the playoffs. Those, to me, are the surprises. And my disappointments, Ambridge, Quaker Valley, I thought they'd be a little bit better, and Rochester.
Yeah, I mean, my biggest surprise and pleased is definitely Riverside for sure. I mean, the coach Magnifico, he had a great season. He got the whole town buy-in. I seen that firsthand with seeing they had like a Panther Day where they literally had every kid in this town there. And once again, my biggest disappointment probably would be Ambridge.
And John, you were here with me when we talked to Ambridge's coach. You were here for New Brighton. You were here for Hopewell, I believe you were, and you were here for Riverside. Anybody besides those teams and disappointments or surprises, or do you have somebody different?
Hopewell was a surprise only because, to me, that they had a new coach. So just always, just transition period to a new coach. And they lost their quarterback during the preseason and training camp to a broken ankle.
Yes.
So all of a sudden, you have a new coach who's got to shift gears and go to another quarterback on the fly, and I thought they were very competitive, and I thought that they were certainly a surprise. disappointment's always relative in high school football. Other than the really elite programs like Aliquippa and some of those schools, everybody goes through cycles where they're good for a while and they're bad. We've seen like New Brighton, for example. Now they're on the up cycle. But Beaver Falls not winning a game just seems. But I will say this: I got the feeling when we talked to Jim Mooney,
they're going to win.
They're going to win games. Yeah.
All right, guys, we got about a minute and a half left. This week, Saturday, 5 o'clock, we will have Central Valley Warriors trying to win the 3A championship. They will be playing Avonworth in a rematch. And also, to be determined, I'm not sure what time the Pitt-Louisville game is. If that's a night game, we'll have that on BVP. If it's an afternoon game, that'll be on as well. Would like to thank everybody for this year. Frank Sparks and the St. Barnabas team, thank you to them. Curtis Walsh and everybody for their help all year long. Robert Mangino during broadcast. Thanks to Tank Latham for being here today and all he's done this year. John Parada always is my right-hand man. Ryan Garazunas, the bearded one behind the glass over here. And I'm getting the 20 seconds, but it says 30 on the wall here, Ryan. You're killing me. But we'd like to thank everybody for a great year. We'll be back the first of the year. Actually, it's going to be the 8th, I believe, for Coach's Corner with basketball. We'll have some girls and boys team on. And as always, we will finally end up with saying, go Warriors. Good luck to the Central Valley Warriors on Saturday afternoon. Join me, Mr. Mangino, and Mr. Latham. Good night, everybody.
You're listening to 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls.